everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am so sorry I haven't made a video for what's probably forever. So this is gonna be everything you need to know about owning a parrot. Thank you. This is on my knee right now. Do you want to come say hi? Hello. So we're gonna be covering pretty much a summary of what it means to basically own a parrot, what you need to own one, how to tame and train them, their diet, their cage setup. So starting off with what it means to own a parrot. It's gonna be like having a 2-year-old toddler for quite some years. Mango can attest to this. She is the tantrum girl. It as well means that you are going to become a homebody. Birds need so much attention. They need a lot of out of cage time. They need a lot of enrichment. And this means that you're probably not gonna be going out so much. Now, it's okay if you're gonna go out every once in a while, but if you're the type of person who basically goes out to socialize and then goes to school and then has extracurricular activities and are rarely ever home, I'd reconsider. Okay, if you got school, it's okay if you got a job. Basically, just be somebody who can give birds at least 6 to 8 hours of attention a day. Yeah, you're gonna be devoting all that time with them. On top of this, birds are really high maintenance creatures. They make huge messes, so you're gonna be expected to be cleaning every single day, which is a chore. Their vet bills are not cheap, and you need a avian vet to go to. Not just any veterinary will care for birds. And you're probably going to be modifying your whole house so that they can be safe and happy. They as well can be pretty moody creatures. They're not like dogs who are all happy and pet me all the time. They can be hey, don't touch me, I hate strangers, I'm gonna attack them all, I'm gonna throw this random object off the counter because I feel like just being chaotic today, kind of stuff like that. And you have to kind of learn to read their body language as well, so I'm gonna be covering all that. Don't worry guys, this was just introduction of my essay. But despite that, they are such great company. They are such funny little creatures to have. They really are like having kids, and they make me laugh and they brighten up my day every time. Even if it's a lot of work, it's very worth it to me at least. So when you bring a parrot home, you want to make sure that you already have everything set up. You should already have a cage. You should already have perches and toys, have their food ready. Every cage size is going to be according to the size of the bird you get. So right here I've constructed a generalized chart. Parrots that fit into different sizing. Keep in mind, this is a minimum kind of chart, so even though it says minimum this, feel free to get them something bigger. That's probably best. For perches, try and get natural wood perches. You can mix them up with some rope perches, but keep in mind they start to wear down and threads become loose, and you need to replace these so that their nails don't get caught in this or they don't ingest the fibers. The dangers of ingesting the fibers can cause them to create this little ball in their digestive system, and then they're not going to be eating, drinking, pooping well, and if you catch it in time, they're going to need surgery to remove that. If you don't catch it in time, you're going to have a dead bird. I'm sorry, that is the reality, and you want to be careful with that. If you have any dowel perches, kind of try and avoid those, and sand perches and all of those kinds of things. Those are really unnatural and rough on their feet. Dowel perches can easily cause bumblefoot, which kind of looks like this. And the sand perches can kind of wear down their foot. A lot of times can cause them to bleed. As for toys, avoid mirrors. This is a very popular marketed toy towards birds, but just because it says for birds doesn't mean it's safe for birds. Keep in mind, most of these companies don't care if it's safe or not. They just care about getting your money. The reason why mirrors are not a good idea is because a lot of birds don't recognize themselves in mirrors, and it can cause them to either get aggressive and territorial, or it can cause them to get hormonal and fall in love with the reflection, which means a hormonal bird is going to equal a pretty aggressive bird. Please try and avoid that. It messes with their psychology pretty bad. Avoid any cotton rope toys. Same problem with the ingestion of fibers. Not all birds are going to be able to break wood. So sometimes getting them like thick wood toys is kind of pointless. Try and get them kebabs. Those kind of fit for every single bird. It's this soft wood that they really like to break apart. Any cardboard is a great idea, toilet paper rolls. You can really DIY some toys. You can get them those like shredded paper kind of toys, or just anything that they can use their beak to entertain, because if they don't have this entertainment, they're going to tear your house apart. Despite that, they probably still will get into things and kind of destroy it, but you can at least minimize it. Whatever room they're in should have big windows, sunshine coming in. They need their vitamin D. If they don't get their vitamin D, they will have very weak bones, very fragile. They're not gonna be strong. It can break easily. Definitely have that sunshine. Have the room where most people are going to be in. They should not be in a small isolated room. They shouldn't be in a basement. Shouldn't be seeing someone just for dinner and then that's it. Now, as other safety measures, if you were going to open windows, have mesh there. Your bird, you do not want them flying out and escaping. This has happened so many times. If you are going to open the front door, the balcony door, make sure they are enclosed in a separate room. Do not just bring your bird outside unless they are free flight trained by a professional. If you want, you can get this magnetic mesh door to prevent them from getting out. Some of them will figure out how to slide underneath it, but you can also just put like one of those baby fences for the stairs. Preventative measure if they do kind of figure it out, but you want to keep them safe. Now, they can definitely explore your house. They can definitely roam around. Just make sure everybody knows in your household to just be cautious of this. The room, you also want to create it a safe space for them. That means don't have any exposed wires. Don't have any metals or coins laying around. These are all toxic to them. Don't have any knives laying around if it's like a kitchen. Keep them safe away from hot stoves. Just general things. Now, around birds, you definitely want to avoid any Teflon. I have in the links down below a Teflon-free, environmentally safe pots and pans set, which I find is great. Do not light any candles around them, perfumes, aerosols. These are all toxic to them. They have very small lungs, and the capacity of this toxicity is going to kill them very quickly. We have larger lungs, therefore these small little aerosols won't affect us. We're gonna process them faster, but definitely not that. Like I said, don't leave coins or metals running around because all the zinc and copper and lead and all of that is toxic to them. Only stainless steel is a safe bet. As for food, make sure you're getting them pellets. Personally, what's recommended is usually the Supreme brand, or the Top brand is great as well. The reason for this, a lot of people think that you feed birds seeds all the time. Seeds are like treats. Basically, think of seeds like dessert. It's very low in nutrition, very high in fat. Now, seeds aren't the enemy. They can have them here and there, but make sure that you have pellets for them, as this has the nutrition that they need. Now, frankly, pellets are not enough. You are going to need to make them chop. Chop consists of finely chopped up vegetables. I as well mixed them up with some fruit, and I put some walnuts and almonds in there. Try and avoid peanuts. Peanuts contain a bacteria in their shell that's bad for them as well. It's really high in fat, and I've seen a lot of intestinal problems occurring because people feed them peanuts. I find that walnuts, being a superfood, is great. Almonds as well. I would stick to those nuts. Now, here is a chop recipe. Now, keep in mind, the reason why I have two posted is because depending where your bird is from, they're going to prefer either more wet food or more dry food. Now, typically, birds from South America are going to prefer wet food, and birds from like Australia or Africa or India are going to prefer more dry food. Now, you're going to have to play around to see what vegetables they like, as they can get picky. A lot of them just maybe don't care, but some of them can get really picky. You can either make this every morning, you can freeze them for every week, even up to a month. And then you defrost it. Make sure you don't heat it up to defrost. Just leave it defrosting naturally. Then put it in a container for like the week and give it to them every morning. I like to even mix in chia seeds, hemp heart, and flax seeds, as this is even on top of that extra nutrition. As well, you want to change their water daily, and you want to have stainless steel cups. Do not get the plastic ones, as bacteria easily grows there, even if you clean it well. With stainless steel, you want to desanitize it with hot water, maybe some vinegar every single night. Keep it clean. Change their water about maybe 2 to 3 times a day, depending how dirty it is. A lot of the times they will poop in their water, and imagine drinking poopy water, like it's gonna get them sick, and you want to make sure that you are cleaning that out. There are some foods that are toxic to your bird. Do not feed them avocados, alcohol, coffee, garlic, onions, tomatoes. I feel like I'm missing some, so I'm just gonna put a chart here when I remember all of them, but I think that's all of them. Please take care of what you are giving your bird. Keep away from them any of these things. Make sure any food that they eat is not heavily seasoned, doesn't have a lot of salt if they are picking from your plate. Yes, birds can have egg and chicken and fish. They are good for that. I would just avoid dairy or red meats, as this can be very heavy on them. They steal a little piece of cheese, like, don't worry about it. Just don't feed them cheese. Don't give them glasses of milk. They're probably going to get diarrhea from this. As well, avoid fruit pits or fruit seeds. Pepper seeds and seeds from vegetables are fine, but a lot of fruit seeds are not good for them, especially apple seeds, which contain cyanide, which is a poison. It is not enough poison to kill us, but it is for them. So when feeding them apples, make sure you are careful to just cut the outer layers and that there is no seed parts. Now you can tell if a bird is getting enough sunshine, healthy food, a healthy environment, if, look how shiny his feathers are. They're all well put together. They have a nice shine. They're very colorful. You can see they're all filled. It's not ruffled or disastrous. You can see his beak. Kiwi, can I get your beak, please? Can I get your beak? You can see his beak is very smooth, very shiny as well. There's not like breakage or cracked parts. It's not discolored. If your bird's feathers are ruffled, they're not looking healthy. They cannot perch, which means that when they tuck in a little foot and they are gonna go to sleep, they start like disbalancing. They have tail bobbing, where tail is gonna kind of go like this, and it's very obvious. It's not like when they balance and it's very light like that. It's gonna be kind of like that. Their behavior is gonna change. They're gonna be pretty sleepy, pretty puffed up all the time. They are probably going to be very quiet. They're not gonna wanna drink. They're not gonna wanna eat. They might even sneeze, and instead of little water droplets coming out, it's gonna be colored mucus. Now, don't confuse this if your bird is puffy because they are sleeping or they are cold. This is something continuous and over the whole day and multiple days. Your bird might have a quiet day where they just don't feel like talking too much. They're pretty chilled out. Don't panic and assume that they are sick. This is something, again, that occurs over multiple days, and it has more than just one sign. Now, birds are pretty discreet about signaling that they are sick, because in the wild, if they signal they are sick, they are easy prey. So you want to be very attentive and get to know your bird very well. Some things that could get them sick, aside from the things that are toxic to them, is an unclean environment. If you are not cleaning their cage, if you are not changing their water, if there's just poop absolutely everywhere and they're stepping on it, all these things can get them sick. You delicious baby. Birds molt. They will have a main molt maybe around springtime, and then again around the end of fall. Molting is when they drop their feathers and grow in new ones. They're not just suddenly gonna drop all of them. It's gonna be a gradual process. Drop some here, drop some there, and then they're gonna grow in. I like to collect the feathers. They're very pretty. As they're growing in the feathers, they might become a little grumpy, a little bit aggressive. You can give them some scrambled eggs once a week for extra protein and calcium to help with all that. Make sure it's cooked on a non-Teflon pan with no seasoning. They're gonna bring in pin feathers. Now, pin feathers are going to look like this, and some of them they can reach and start breaking that shaft apart as the feather comes growing in to allow the feather out. And sometimes on their head, if they don't have a partner, then they are going to need your help. With birds, you are going to offer them either a mist bath or a little bath, because with different species of birds, they will either prefer a little spritz of mist, or they're gonna prefer a little shallow bowl full of like room temperature water. Some birds just like to bathe in your freezing cold water bowl, but if it can be helped, try and make it lukewarm to cool, and make sure that when they're drying off, they're not like freezing in a cold environment, because again, they can get sick. With some birds, such as budgies, they tend to bathe with wet lettuce leaves or spinach leaves, stuff like that. They really like to just bathe with that. Even just the leaves itself just wet, that's the way that they like to bathe. I personally always recommend that you bring your bird into the shower with you so that they can just enjoy the steam of the hot shower, like a sauna basically. This is gonna help improve their feather quality. It's gonna clear out their airway, and especially if you have anything like a cockatiel, cockatoo, African gray, birds that have a lot of dander, that kind of like dust that they have, this is gonna help maintain that. As well as gonna help hydrate their feeties. Sometimes some birds have really dry, cracked feet. This can easily cause a bleeding or infection because it's going to have openings. So definitely those daily bringing them into the showers is going to really, really help. If your bird comes with clipped wings, please do not continue to clip them. There is this notion that clipping their wings will keep them safe and, you know, it's easier to train them. Clipping wings is abuse. Even in Germany, they acknowledge this as abuse and have it banned from doing this to birds. If you're gonna get a flighted animal, do not take away their flight. Just get a cat or dog if you're gonna take away their flight. You have to take the time to train your bird, bond with your bird, and you have to make sure the area is safe for them. Flight is the way of them to get out of danger. They're actually more likely to injure themselves flying, being clipped. And do not bring them outside if they are clipped. This doesn't mean they can fly away. They can still fly, and the problem is that they have no control of their flight. So let's say a gush of wind blows them away, or they get spooked and they try and fly away. They're now an easy prey for predators because predators will notice that they are weak and they do not fly well. So boom, your bird's gone. Very easy predator for dogs or cats. If they get lost on the ground, boom, your bird is done. They need their flight for exercise, for a healthy mind, for a healthy body. The only reason your bird can be clipped is for a medical reason. Medical reasons such as, for example, they're born with no tail. That's one good example. No flight will cause them to gain weight. It can cause them to have cardiovascular issues, diabetes. You are probably going to end up shortening their lifespan because you ended up just continuously clipping their wings. If your bird already came with clipped wings, let them grow out. Let them have that molt and let them bring in those new feathers, and they're going to have to train to fly. Every bird isn't born knowing how to fly. They're like babies. Babies aren't born knowing how to walk. Yeah, they're probably gonna fall, bruise their knee, and get back up, and they're fine. When a bird's learning to fly, they're not gonna fly fast enough where they're gonna be able to like smack themselves hard enough to kill themselves. But despite that, of course it has happened, if you were teaching them to fly, you want to probably cover up the windows until you can teach them what is a window. This is how you teach them what a window is.
I'll be showing you guys how to show your bird what glass is. That way they don't run right into it and they won't kill themselves. So bring them towards something that's glass and make sure to tap it. Get them to understand that. And then I just kind of bonk her little beak up against it. Bonk. Like that. And I just do that, and that's just how they understood what glass was. And they have never, even if they're scared, flown into glass before. Right, Mingo? Thank you for letting me bonk you. Mwah.
Very simple. Take them to one room so they are accustomed to just flying in one environment, and then they can start exploring new environments. Give them landing spots. Make sure they have places that they can get to. Make sure the space is open and not too cluttered, otherwise they can probably fall and injure themselves. Again, make sure the space is safe. Make sure you are there kind of guiding them, calling them over, encouraging them, because yeah, they understand. They're super smart. Now, one of the most important things you can train your bird to do is recall training. Recall training can significantly increase the chances, especially if they accidentally get out of your house. Recall training, again, might take a few times, a few weeks. You don't want to do this until they are very comfortable with your hand. This is a small video I did a while ago on a very simple way on recall training them.
Recall training your bird. First, make sure they can step up. Good job. And make sure they can come to you at every little distance and keep stepping back and back more each time. Kiwi! Kiwi! Good boy! Go! Come here! She landed on my arm. But treats can also help. Good motivator. Training them can take time, but make sure to reward them for every little progress and just be patient. They'll eventually come to you.
You really do feel like a Disney princess when you call them over and they come swooshing over to you. They can even get as advanced as just finding you in separate rooms or just knowing where you are, curving around walls. They're going to be better at recall training, especially if they have their full-grown wings. I would definitely recommend recall training once they do have their full flight and they are comfortable with flying. Now I'm starting to get ahead of myself. Sorry. But we have to start with taming, training, and gaining their trust. This process is going to take time. Please do not assume that your bird or all birds are just going to immediately jump onto you, be your best friend, let you touch them. These are rare occurrences. Most birds might come scared. They're probably going to be scared of your hand. They're not going to kind of know what to do because They have no idea who you are. You're a new person. It's a new environment. They're going to be overwhelmed. Give them a few days in their cage to just kind of know what's going on, get to know their surroundings. Make sure you're speaking softly. There's no yelling or arguing in the house, no hard slamming doors, no loud music. To see that the bird is kind of like moving around in his cage, it's kind of getting a little more accustomed, this is where you can start the process. Now keep in mind, maybe the first or second day your bird might not drink water or eat. This is normal. Now maybe if after that they are still not doing any of this, that's not normal. You can start off by opening up the front cage door. Let them kind of acknowledge that they can be free, that they're not locked in this cage, that they can start coming out. Now, some birds might just kind of fly out and just immediately kind of start exploring. Allow them to do this. Allow them just kind of look around, sit somewhere. They might just sit there for like the whole day. If this occurs and it's their bedtime, then just turn off the lights and just pick them up and swoosh them back in. Birds do not fly if the lights are off. They don't have any night vision. They will completely freeze. Try at this point though, if they're out of their cage flying or if they're just sitting at the front, you're gonna grab a treat. It can be a millet, it can be a piece of spinach, just anything where there's a bit of distance from your fingers to the vegetable or treat or whatever it is. You can even put food on your hand inside here, anything like that. You're gonna start off very slow and you're gonna start offering to them a little bit further away. Ooh. And see if they come to your hand. Do not just shove your hand in their face. Do not try and grab them. Nothing like that. You're going to take very slow baby steps. Now, this might take a few days, a few weeks. Every single bird depends. Some birds bond quicker than others. Once they start approaching your hand and kind of picking away from it, do not move your hand. Don't do it. They're going to get spooked. They're going to be like, whoa, what is this? Speak to them softly whenever you offer your hand. You want to let them know that you are not an enemy and that you are going to give them good things like food. Food is always great. And that you're not a threat, you are going to be a positive giver kind of thing. Once they start eating from your hand over a few days and they are more comfortable with you, you can see if they'll start stepping up to your hand, move your fingers a little bit, see how they feel about that, and continue to try this every single day. Now, at one point, they might feel comfortable and get on your hand. If they get on your hand, try not to move it. Again, repeat this process for a few days. Now, once they start getting onto your hand, then you can start kind of slowly start moving it around. Again, they might hop off, they might get scared, they might be fine with it. Everything you do though should be slow, very slow movement, because sudden, fast, aggressive movements will make them think that you're about to grab them, hit them, just anything like that. So let's say you got to the point where they're getting on your hand. Time for body language. Now, a bird will have different body languages, and here is a very simple chart about understanding their body language. Some parrots might have slightly differs, and it might be easier to tell with any bird with a crest that they are feeling a sort of certain way. But if they are feeling like, hey, back off, or they're leaning forward with their beak open, don't touch me, respect their space. If you shove your hand, even though they are giving you warnings, you deserve that bite. You fully deserve to get bitten. Don't do this as you're just going to continue to break their trust. You're going to be like, hey, this person isn't respecting me. Why should I respect them? You want to gain their trust. You want to gain their respect. So respect them right back. When it comes to getting to pet your bird, this is a whole other level of trust. When you get to pet your bird, they should be comfortable with your hand. Now, all the time, they might not want your hand nearby. Just because they trust you to pet them doesn't mean they're going to let you pet them every single time. Again, respect their body language. But if you do get to pet them, it is such a nice experience. Now, again, you want them used to your hand. Your hand should not be a threat to them. You can start leaning your hand in slowly above their head. See how they react. If they kind of go back off, then just back off. Keep trying that every day. Every day, try to get closer until they kind of let you. Kiwi doesn't like to be pet right now. So they kind of let you, touch them. Now, the way you're going to touch a bird is nowhere below their neck. Anything below their neck is going to hormonally stimulate them. They are going to get hormonal and aggressive, which brings me into puberty. Puberty is when a bird is hormonal changes into their adulthood. Think of it as a teenager stage. They're going to get, some don't, but most will get very aggressive, very nippy. They might have a complete change in behavior. They might not want you to touch them. They might get more stubborn and leave me alone. it's gonna be a hard time. And depending what type of bird you have, and they'll start puberty at a certain age and it will last a certain time. This is the time that most people give up on their birds and they say, no way, I'm not keeping this bird, and they get rid of them. Please do not do this. Please be patient with them. I promise it'll pass. The most you can do is just, again, respect their space, offer them baths to calm down, distract them with treats or toys. Just try and keep them not so stimulated. Don't give them nesting boxes. Do not give them little dark corners to hide in. Do not touch them below the neck. All of this is gonna cause their hormones to be like, hey. You want to maintain a consistent sleep schedule. Birds are going to sleep in between 12 to 14 hours. So you want to make sure that they are in a place where they can get good sleep at the same time, at the same morning, every single time. So for example, you put them to sleep, let's say 6 o'clock, turn off all the lights, close the curtains, cover their cage, and then let's say you wake them up around 8 in the morning. Be consistent with that sleep schedule, because too much sunlight or too little sunlight will hormonally stimulate them. Once they reach adulthood, then you're gonna have nesting seasons. Now, this usually occurs during spring and end of summer. This is where their biological clock is gonna go, hey, let's make babies. This is basically like a season of puberty all over again. They're gonna be looking for dark spots like nests. They're gonna be looking for a mate. They might get a little bit aggressive. Try and not stimulate them. Try and calm them down. Same process as before until this time passes. Now, this one will only last maybe a few weeks to a month. It's not going to be as long as puberty, which can go like up to a year or more or less. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people get their birds just nesting boxes. Most birds are not nesting birds, and it will just cause them to want to lay eggs. If they're female, it will cause them to get hormonal. South America, Quaker parrots are the only type of parrot who makes nests. If you are having issues with having like a little box with them and they're getting hormonal, take it away. Conures sleep on their belly. They don't like sleeping on perches. So try and get them a seagrass hammock, or those little seagrass tents that are completely enclosed so that they can comfortably sleep. So commonly, budgies. People get budgies, these boxes. Budgies are migratory birds. They only create a nest when they are going to lay eggs. Some birds will lay eggs without being hormonally stimulated around the age of 5 for some of them. If they do lay these eggs, take them away from them. Take anything that's causing them to hormonally stimulate away from them, because if they're laying those eggs, then they're going to want to sit on that egg. They're not going to want to eat. They're not going to want to drink water, and that's just going to get them sick. If they're continuously laying eggs or being hormonally stimulated, then it can cause egg bounding. This is where all that calcium that goes into constructing an egg, they don't have that in their body anymore, and that egg is now stuck in their insides, and they're going to need to surgically remove it. During this time, they're not going to eat, they're not going to drink, they're going to be acting weird. Please take them to the vets. Please reduce any stimulation. You want to maintain a clean environment. Now, the way you want to clean your cage, clean everything, is that you're going to take 3 parts water and 1 part vinegar, shake that up in a little spray bottle, because a lot of cleaning products are toxic to them. So vinegar, not toxic to them, great cleaning substitute. You're gonna spray that, let it sit for a bit, and then just scrub it off with your floors, with your doors, with anything else that they've got poop on. Easy cleaning agent, comes right off. Just leave it there for like a minute and it just whoosh. For carpets, just let it dry and then just vacuum it up. You might have to like scrub it with the hose to get it off out of your carpet. But I do find that having a floor is much easier with cleaning your bird stuff. Now, I have a carpet. It's so much more work than having a floor, but that's kind of the way you get rid of these things. A lot of people ask about your bird having a partner or having a second bird. Now, keep in mind, if you get your bird a partner of the opposite sex, you're gonna have to be attentive if they're the same species, because they don't cross species. They are not gonna lay eggs if you don't plan on breeding. If you are gonna get them if you're gonna get a second bird, lots of people panic that, oh, are they gonna hate each other, or maybe they're going to not like me and just bond to each other. Now, getting a second bird is a whole task. You're gonna have to bond them. Now, this can definitely take time, and it's going to be a work every single day on bonding them. There's absolutely no guarantee that they will become best friends, but the most you want is for them to tolerate each other, so it's a little bit of a risk. You definitely want to, when bonding, all of you, the 2 birds and you there, because that's going to cause them to think of you as a community, not just them separated, not just you separated with one of them. And this is usually how a lot of people get your birds and you to maintain all bonded. So there's different methods that you can use, but keep in mind when you bring a new bird home, you want to avoid your bird attacking them. You want to avoid them going into their territory. You want to have separate cages. Do not just stuff them in the same cage. They will probably try and injure or kill each other. You're gonna have to have them kind of separate and get used to each other. So probably the new bird in their cage in a separate room for just a bit. Quarantine them, make sure that they don't have any sickness until you can bring them to the vet, and then bring them into the room. Keep them a little bit further apart. Let your bird explore the new bird's cage, vice versa, and then you can start bringing them out. You want to probably hold the new bird, make sure they are bonded to you. Yeah, that's the other thing. Make sure they're bonded to you as well before you start working with both your birds together. So you're gonna have to kind of split your attention. That way you can handle them with your new bird. So you want to hold them, let your new bird come close, but keep them a little bit separate. Let them kind of like look around because you might try and lunge. Just always be present. Never just leave them alone and be like, okay, good luck kind of thing. These can take anywhere for a few weeks to more than a year. And you know, it's kind of, you gotta be ready for it kind of thing. Some birds are naturally very social. Kiwi has always been very social, always wanting friends, always kind of chatting with birds. He's very helpful, very open. Mango has always been kind of, I don't care, I'm gonna be mean, not come near anybody. And Lusa is, because she's a rescue, never grew up with birds, she took a bit of time. She was very cautious and scared of my birds, even though all they wanted to do was just love her and bond with her and everything. So it was kind of the opposite. Instead of them lunging at her, I had to keep them so it didn't like overwhelm her, because they just wanted to just preen her and just be around her. But having a second bird, in my opinion, if they aren't the super jealous type who hate everybody, is great, because they help each other preen, they accompany each other, they can play with each other. There's a lot of benefits to it. Birds by nature are social animals. They are not meant to be left alone. It even helps if you buy two birds at the same time. If they are bonded pair, that's great. Try and avoid having siblings together, because if you have siblings together, then they might start plucking out each other's feathers. Biting and screaming. Birds scream to communicate. It can get frustrating. If they're screaming or throwing a tantrum too much, just leave them alone, leave the room, go for a drive. I find that this helps a lot, because usually when I come back, they've calmed down. They could be screaming because their room is too hot, because they want attention, because they're warning you about something. Maybe somebody's walking outside, or they're just kind of see a hawk fly by. Try and do elimination of process. Wow, that was magical. Thank you. For biting, you want to minimize this as much as possible. Now, never getting bit by your bird is pretty unheard of. Keep in mind when I mention biting, I'm not always talking about full-blown bleeding bites, as a lot of people kind of misunderstand in my videos. I could be referring to a light to medium kind of munch, usually like those warning bites, or maybe if you're playing with them and they get overstimulated. If they are biting to bleed, then definitely something happens. It is never their fault. Keep that in mind. You probably misunderstood their body language. You probably got close when they were saying, hey, back off. They were probably in a grumpy mood when they again were saying back off, and you didn't do that. They were either scared or they were mad at you, or, you know, you want to just be aware of them. Don't blame your bird. Don't yell at your bird. Don't throw things at your bird. Do not hit your bird. There's no hierarchy in birds. There was always this myth that your bird thought they were the alpha if they flew up high. Birds work as communities. There's no alpha hierarchy. You are gonna have to kind of accommodate to them instead of vice versa, because you're bringing in an exotic wild animal. Again, not domesticated. Now, by respecting their body language and accommodating to them, then their bites will definitely minimize. You might see them mostly biting and getting a little agitated during puberty, nesting season, or molting seasons. If your bird does something that they are not supposed to, if they start biting wood from fans or door frames, if they try and attack somebody, if, you know, anything like that, there are ways to get them to understand, hey, what you're doing is incorrect. Usually I change my tone to being stern, not mad, not yelling, but stern. Sometimes you can give them a little tap on the beak, like no, like kind of that, not harsh, not hitting, very light bunk, like that, like a little bunk kind of thing. You can just place them back in the room and just let them be like, hey, what you did wasn't okay. They're very intelligent, they understand. Like a toddler, they might do things to push your limit. They know what they're doing is what they're not supposed to be doing, but they'll kind of do it anyways. Don't punish them by locking them in a cage. This is going to associate their cage with something negative. You want a lot of positive association. So for example, If you tell them, hey, come down from there, you're not supposed to do that, recall, and then they come down, be like, good job, give them a treat, give them a kiss, whatever it is that they respond positively to. Then they're gonna realize, hey, look at that. If I stop doing this and I come to like mom or dad, then I get a kiss. Wow. Now, there are a lot of videos I can't exactly summarize, and it's just a lot of smaller information that you can definitely check out my channel. I have a lot of videos to pretty much everything, so feel free to look at that. I really hope this kind of summarized the basics. This is by no means all the information that you need. It is a good starting point to just get an idea of things. As always, if you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Check our social media links, our TikTok, our Instagram, our Etsy shop as well. Always reach out to me if you have any problems, if you need help with anything. Try to condense this as short as possible. If you watched till the end, thank you so much. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys hopefully next time. Bye-bye.